two handouts that you guys have. One of them says river ecology variables, and on the back is a photocopy of what would come in this little bucket. So you're all going to get one of them. It gives a little background on DO and some of the other tests that can be done here. It also talks about which factors can be measured in this, so some of the abiotic factors that this will measure. The lab that I did was two parts. So the first part was like so there's two reasons we did it. We went to the Bronx River, and they gave us a few mussels. So they gave us Atlantic rib mussels, which are native to the Bronx River, and we set up 2 tanks in the classroom, and we tested a few different things. On page 4, we looked at turbidity level, nitrates, phosphates, and pH. And what we wanted to see was if in the experimental tank these levels changed in comparison to the control tank. In the experimental tank we had the mussels, in the control tank we did not. So we wanted to see, one, if the levels of these different data points would change based on the mussels. And it was really good for students to manipulate these variables, and there's a whole thing about experimental design that they had to plan out beforehand. So if you look at page 3, it's just another way for them to contextualize how to set up an experiment. My kids have struggled all year and last year with, it's almost like a logic problem. Like how do these different variables make sense in different contexts? So like exposing them to as many different contexts and hands-on experiences as possible. I think by the end of the year they were starting to get it. But this is a really cool, not just thought experiment, but actually practicing collecting the data. So by the time we took them to the actual river, they had already practiced testing with the tabs. So they were already pretty well versed in how to read this, which is the testing, what you would call it. So we used this, nitrate levels we looked at, and one of the other big parts of this was we used a combination of the water testing kits and probeware. So we have these vernier probes, and do you guys know what those are? So, yeah, right? And the kids like love it. They think it's the coolest thing ever. So they're definitely a little on the pricey side, but I really think they're so worth it for getting real science data. And you'll hear kids say, like, oh, I feel like such a scientist, and they love it. So it's definitely an investment, but every year you can use it. So, and you can build every year. So if you get 1 or 2 different interfaces, you can every year. So this year we got a dissolved oxygen probe, and we have a few pH probes, we have a few temp probes, which are really cheap. We have a turbidity probe. So those are the main 4 that we have. And so you can also use it for other projects. Like there's a carbon dioxide one that we used a lot for the cellular respiration lab. So once you mix the yeast and the water and sugar, we actually we used a sample of it, and so they put the probe on top. So it was closed off, and then we projected the graph on the screen, and you could see over time as the carbon dioxide went up, and you could watch it as a class, right? And then we took that away, so we got a kid to come up and take it away, and they made a prediction like, what do you think is going to happen? As soon as that happened, the graph started to drop. So it's like really accurate, really cool. So I highly recommend